back then it was like, oh, this is a very cool opportunity. Now it's gotten to the point where there are more businesses than ever on the market. Um, you've got 2.5 million businesses that are on the market right now. Every year, 800,000 more businesses come on the market. And that's because of the baby boomers. And this is going to last for probably the next 5 to 6 years. And as you know, we met in Colombia years ago. I was then living in Argentina. And so I've been living overseas and really enjoying my life overseas, to be quite honest. But this opportunity was so huge that I moved back to the US, because like it's just all of these businesses are coming to market. But when you just, if that statistic of having the 800,000 new businesses that are coming to market, what's happening is every year you've got 2.5 million, you got 800,000 added, and you've only got about 200,000 businesses being bought, because you got millions of new businesses being started and nobody's going out to, just like you would go out and find the porch, go out and find the house. No, everybody's obsessed with starting from scratch, even though the odds are you're 80% likely to fail, all these things, the statistics. And so you're in the situation where when you've got only 200,000 being bought, you got 2 million on the market, a lot of those businesses just disappearing. And with those businesses disappearing are all of these assets. So they've got, even if you don't buy the business, and this is what relates to what you were saying earlier, a lot of the deals that we're doing, we don't even have to buy the whole business. We're buying a business, then we're going and we're acquiring databases of customers from other businesses, brands, when they've got a really great relationship with those customers, they've got SOPs, people don't understand the value. Like when people are buying a franchise and they're paying $100,000 for that franchise fee, that's literally just the standard operating procedures that those people are buying. So there are all of these assets within these businesses that are just every day being given away. And so, yeah, it's just this huge opportunity.
I love that. I love what you're saying. I mean, you're right. Everything you said, there's about two or three things that sparked a thought in what you said. I'm gonna try to organize it in a way so I don't sound like a crazy man, because I'm really inspired by this. First off, you introduced us to this idea that a lot of us don't think about, which is that you don't have to start from nothing and build this business up and go through all the years of your life of trial and error to figure it out, hoping that you eventually do. And knowing that 80% of all new businesses, they never figure it out. They never survive, right? So
Yeah.
that's the first thing, right? That high infant mortality rate in Black owned businesses that
Yeah.
that we have to deal with. And then you also mentioned this idea of baby boomers and legacies being lost. There are lots of legacies that just disappear, where you got some founder that busted their butt for 40 years running a business. Kids don't want it, and maybe they haven't even thought to package to sell it. And but they figured it out. There's 40 years. And I want everybody to give me a guess if you understand this. Just so you know, Ace, in financial consciousness training, this is literally where we get together every single morning, 7 days a week at 10 a.m. and we just think about money. I want everyone to be financially aware. So we understand things like most assets are not financial assets, right? So if you're talking about somebody to put 40 years of trial and error into a business, that's an asset. That experience is an asset that can be capitalized and turned into cash flow like anything else. But a lot of these assets get tossed in the trash because then the founder dies, the business dies with him or her, and nobody benefits from that legacy. So you're saying, it sounds to me, and I'd love for you to continue to elaborate on this, that there is a massive, massive market that's pretty unaddressed, it sounds like, where you can go and acquire these assets, which would allow you to benefit from the 40 years of or experience and the fact that they figured out the business model. They've already acquired customers that love the brand. And this doesn't require you to spend that 5, 10, 15 years of hard work that people might put in to get a solid business. I don't know about
Well,
you, but this sounds pretty awesome, because the fact that the market's not addressed, and maybe you can let me know about this, but it seems like it's easy to find undervalued assets in that market. Am I correct?
It's undervalued, and a lot of times just assets that are being left for dead. It's I love LaShonda Cooley's comment that there are a lot of family owned businesses that end up going away because the founder passes away. And when, especially in our community as well, like there's just a lot of these businesses that have great brands and we love them. And so there's the experience, there's the branding, there's the customer databases. I'll tell a quick story of a business that I did that was a spa years ago, one of my early businesses. And I'm going through, I had very little interest in the business because it was in, most of their money was coming from tanning. So they had these spa services, but it was a lot of tanning. I didn't know anything about a tanning business. So, but I was the type, I understood like, hey, every opportunity that I have to go and look at a business for sale is going to be a learning opportunity. So I always took every opportunity anytime somebody sent me a referral, whatever. So I go, I'm looking at the business, I'm literally just learning like, oh, how do these machines work? And what are these lotions and all this stuff? And not interested in the business at all. And so I get to the very end, and she was kind of a baby boomer type, and so I'm asking her about her database of customers. And she said, we've got about 12,000 people in the database. And for just a little local business, I grew up in Chattanooga. This was in Chattanooga, Tennessee. 12,000 people in a database is actually pretty good. Like when we're getting to the internet numbers, we think that, but these are people that are like connected physically to this business. So I'm like, how did you get these customers? Like everybody just came in, that kind of thing. And we collected this over the 28 years that they had been in business. And so, obviously my next question was, how often are you reaching out to them? And she responded, like, we don't really do that. I was like, oh, I mean, that's fine. Like, what's the information that you have? You got emails? We got email, address, and phone numbers. I was like, well, so yeah, just between all of those, like, when was the last time that you messaged them, that you emailed them, that you called them? And she was like, no, like, I don't want to bother my customers. So we've never done that.
Wow.
So I
Why
literally
get the information if you're not going to use it? I don't understand that.
just to have it in the database so when they come in, you can pull up the information. So it
Wow.
was just to track them if they came in or not to get them to come in. It was like, okay, yeah, we've got you in the system. So I sat
Wow.
down at her computer because I came totally not planning about this business, and wrote up an LOI, got that business for no money down because she was moving to Europe and had to sell the business. We literally she had a few things, and these are the concepts that in a lot of these baby boom businesses are like foreign. Like the other thing, once I bought it, we did two things that ended up tripling this business. The first one was obviously, hey, let's message the people whose information they gave us.
Right.
The second was but LOI is letter of intent, by the way. Thanks for clarifying that, Calvin. Great question, Ari. So the interesting thing was like she was like anti-sales. So and there are a couple of lessons in this deal. The first one was obviously, when people came in, I asked like, hey, like, I don't know anything about this business. It seems like we should be trying to sell them lotion, right? Like we got the lotions here, like there's great margin in this. We should be trying to sell it. And she was like, well, no, Ivana said that like, if people want a lotion, they will tell you they want a lotion. Don't try to sell them a lotion. I'm like, no way.
Well,
Like,
that's such
we're changing this
a
policy.
cute story.
Yeah, we're changing this.
Wow.
And so, and this is what's cool when you have these businesses. That was a business been around for 28 years. So they just built up so much momentum that it was $1 million business. But it was with all of, when you're building from scratch and you don't have all of that time behind you, you've got to do everything perfect. We think about how we're trying to upsell and downsell and all these things. And like you have these baby boomer businesses where they're like, no, do not sell my customers. You're going to run them off. So then the other part of that, when you talk about finding other businesses to compliment. So the other thing I did, I had an amazing manager at that business. I ended up buying another tanning salon that just was the marketing. And like they were just great at marketing. We went to go check it out for sale. And like my manager, the first one where the operations, everything was perfect. She went in and was like, oh my God, this place is disgusting. They're not dusting their stuff and cleaning and all of this. Like that was her obsession, was operations. But the manager at the other one was like sales. Like I went in, I'm looking, and then like she's like hardcore. So like, no, you need to upgrade to this lotion. This is why you got to upgrade. And so literally, I bought that one and changed the managers. So this one got a culture of marketing, sales, and the other one got a culture of operations, taking care of the customer, and that kind of thing. So those
Wow.
are the cool things that you can do in the market right now.
Wow, wow, that's pretty awesome. And everybody who just came in, I'm speaking with Ace Chapman, and Ace is very well respected for acquiring businesses and really doing some magical things in terms of being able to create wealth in a space that tends to be neglected. And in case you want to know, also Ace is he's honoring us by joining us in the Black Business School. And he's one of our visiting faculty, and he's going to actually explain a lot of this on Friday night at 8 o'clock. And it's totally free for everybody that's in the school. So what I'm going to do is send everybody the link. I'm going to text you the link. Just make sure you're on the text list. To get on the text list, text the word morning to 87948. Text morning to 87948. And I'll send out the link later on today. I don't have it right here in front of me, but I'll send you all the link where you can join Ace's event on Friday night. And I think you're going to love what you hear. And the goal is to make sure you're introduced to this kind of thing because Ace, I can tell you, it's really interesting that it's almost like you go in these stages as a black investor, and I'd like to hear how you were raised and
Yeah,
start to think about money, because I know my financial consciousness started at a very almost like a primitive level. It's like
yeah.
if you want money, go get a job, right? A lot of us went through that, and then it's like, but if you want to really make money, get a really good job. Well, how do you get a really good job? Well, you go to college, you go in debt, and all that, right? Which isn't always a bad thing. I went into debt. I didn't regret it. I got a PhD. I was making six figures.
Yeah.
But then it's like, well, no. When you're black and you want to be free, you might want to go start a business. So then you go through another grind of figuring out how to start a business and listen to all these motivational tapes and everything. And so you're getting instruction in one ear, motivation in the other. Go, go, go! You can do it. And then, oh well, here's how you do it, right? And you grind for years and years, and you bust your butt. You're working these 40, 60, 70, 80, 80, 90-hour weeks, and then next thing you know, if you're lucky, you've got a business that's actually making money. So you're free. And then when you're free, you have to go from being a solopreneur to somehow finding a way to employ other people, which involves delegation, all that, and scaling.
Yeah.
And then you get about maybe, I want to say 45 to 50, where you're kind of like, okay, I don't know if I want to just work night and day, 14, 15 hours a day like that, like I used to. And that was the journey that I took where eventually started learning about all these other ways to make money. Like, so for example, I don't know if you know this, Ace, but we have a whole training called How to Make Money Without Working. And that
Mm.
involves literally the same process of setting up a business, except I say, instead of pouring all your cash into your bakery or whatever you're trying to do, just buy some shares of certain companies and sell the options on the stock. And here's the ROI, and it's really good. And my wife loves it. She's like, oh, the cash flow is amazing, right? So, and it doesn't require us to do like a lot of that grind that, landlords do or the grind that entrepreneurs have to do. We do some of that, but it's a nice diversification strategy. Now, and then you come along. Then I bump into Ace Chapman, and
Yeah.
Ace, you tell me that there's this massive market of people letting go of their businesses. Some of them not, and it's the crazy part is it's not that just that the businesses are available for sale, and it's not just that they're underpriced. It's that literally many of them are being left for dead. Like you literally have this massive market, this supply demand imbalance that's heavily in your favor. So when you're approaching this, how do you structure around you like the kind of team that can help get this sort of thing done? I mean, what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So one of the things that was really cool is early on understanding how I can leverage the team that's already in place. I mean, this goes back to my very first deal, just so everybody knows, I did not come for money. I didn't have to learn a lot of this, just trial and error, literally. And it was in a time where even just trying to search or try to figure stuff out online was kind of non-existent. So my very first deal was in 1999. And it was a stock market simulator that I was using just as a customer. And the site was just always crashing. It was always having issues. And when you would reach out to the managers of the business, they just didn't respond. And so they had a forum on their own site where the whole thing was just people complaining about the site and the service and the customer, just everything. And they didn't even respond to that. And so I felt like, man, this could be so great. So I reached out to them at the end of my towards the end of my sophomore year and said, hey, I would love to I would love to come and just intern for you. And they reached back out and said, hey, why don't you find somebody to buy the business? Because we want to get rid of this business. And then you could intern for them. Now, I was studying political science, but I knew enough about business to know that that was a terrible deal. Like, I'm not going to find you a buyer for your business so that I can come and work for that buyer and not get a free job. I'm going to get a free job out of this. So I ended up negotiating with them over a period of time that I would be kind of the buyer. Like the first thing was just I was interested. I was just curious because I was a broke college kid. I had $3,000 of savings, but I was curious how much money they were making. I was curious like how the business worked. And so, they were asking a 19-year-old kid to find a buyer for their business. And I'm like, well, maybe they'll show me the numbers. So I reached back. I was like, yeah, maybe I'll find you a buyer. And sure enough, they sent me the profit and loss and all that. I'm figuring out how to read this. And so it was cool. I was at a school called Colgate University, and I went to a professor on the economics side. I was like, hey, like, how do I figure out what is all this? You know what I mean? I was planning on going to law school. So I was just history and English and all that. And it was great because he just like sat down. He's like, oh, like, what is this business? This looks interesting. So he pumped me up like, okay, this looks good. And the business was making like $60,000 a year, and they wanted $70,000 for the business. And again, I didn't know if that was a good deal or bad deal, but I knew the college that I was at that point, now it's more expensive, it was like $35,000 a year. And people were getting out of school with $140,000 in debt and getting a job for $40,000. So that was my comparable. It's like, okay, I can pay $70,000 for something that's making 60. Everybody's paying $140,000 for something. They're coming out making 40. Like, this sounds like a good deal. You know what I mean?
Nice.
So, but the downside was it didn't matter. I only had $3,000. They wanted 70. So a few little time passes by. I'm like, man, I really wish there was a way for me to buy this thing. Eventually, I kind of find out about this thing called seller financing. They say, hey, we would sell finance like half of it, but you got to come up with 35. That was great, but I was still a long way away. 19-year-old, like that's a long way away from 35,000. So I'm talking to a buddy who's a programmer, and this goes back to your question, like building the team. He was a programmer, and he had he liked this idea, and he was like, I'll put in like 15,000. I'm like, dude, where you gonna get 15,000 from? He's like, well, I have to check with my dad, but I got some bar mitzvah money. And my first question is like, yo, how could I get a bar mitzvah? We don't qualify for that. No bar mitzvah. So his dad liked the idea. He ended up putting up some money. And then the final piece actually came from and any of those old folks like me, you remember the predatory days that they would put out on the quad, these credit card companies, and give you, T-shirts and all kind of worthless items to get you into credit card debt.
Yep.
Well, my parents were like, don't ever get one of these credit cards that I die, but I'm like, okay, maybe I can put these credit cards together and make this deal work. So that became the final piece. And I've had people ask me like, oh, like you must have been so stressed. Is this business going to work? And blah, 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 blah. Somebody said free T-shirts, pizza. They would get you with the pizza to get you into this credit card debt. But yeah, so I end up with a credit card debt, but people are like, you must have been so stressed. I'm like, my biggest stress at that point was it was 3 different credit card companies and making sure that not one of those credit card statements ended up at my parents' house. I'm like, every month I was calling them ahead of time. Hey, can you just double check this address? This has to come to my college address. Because if that went to my home address and my parents found out, wait a minute, you done went into debt to buy some website on the internet. My whole career would have been done. They would have came up there and murdered.
The dream killers. So how did it turn out? Would you consider that to have been a great investment?
It was awesome. So I had that team, and here's a really beautiful thing that changed my life and trajectory. So I ended up it grew, kind of just I like the low hanging fruit things. Kind
Mm.
of looking at the tennis, a lot looking at things like these deals where it's like, oh, you're making 60,000. Now remember about the operations. They're making 60,000 a year, and the whole forum is just complaints about how terrible they are, how bad the customer service is.
Mm.
And so that's like a lot of people look at this, and you got to change your mind to thinking about real estate. You don't want the pretty house. You want everything is great. I want the business to really suck and still be making money as
Mm.
opposed to everything being perfect. So it was very easy to start to improve that because I started responding. I went to the oldest, but like, hey, sorry, we haven't been responsive. Da, 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 da. So it changed the whole dynamics of the business. It ends up growing. And another story with my parents, because my parents are like you with education, yours with education. It was leaving school. So I ended up leaving
Mm.
school and running this business, hiring a team. And, we grew this business over the course of 2 years. Now, here's where things got sticky, and this is what you have to be prepared for in business. The dot-com bubble burst. And a lot of people that we were making money from, and you'll remember this back 2001 in that period,
Yep.
that all went away. And so here I am. I don't have a degree. The business is out of business. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And I get an opportunity to work at SunTrust. They just love what I had built with that business in this financial education space. And so it was great, making really great money for, college dropout, all this stuff. But I was disappointed that I felt like, man, like my entrepreneurial dreams are gone. And one of the things that I didn't realize at that point, I did not see myself as a business buyer. I thought I was an entrepreneur that just happened to luck into this buying of a business thing, because it wasn't like I went out and searched for it. It never crossed my mind like, oh, I could just go out and do this. I could just go out
Mm.
and buy more businesses. And so one day I'm at this charitable event. I think that's just a side note. When you get into this, one of the things that I recommend everybody do more of is just get involved with charities, get involved with boards, get involved with foundations over and over. When I look back on my history, there are just so many connections and little things where things that are beautiful have happened from that. So a buddy of mine is like, hey, you need to connect with this guy, Mike Aiken. He does what you do. It's like, I'm gonna give you his number and I think he does what you do with businesses. And because you bought that business. And I was like, okay, cool. So I call him and I was like, oh, Eric said we should connect. And he said we're in a similar industry. And Mike said, oh, cool. I was like, so what do you do? And he said, I buy and sell hospitals. And I was like, oh yeah, we are nowhere near in the same. We have, but the really cool thing was he agreed to start meeting with me basically once a quarter.
Mm.
And the first two meetings were were very impactful. The first one lasted about 3 minutes. I showed up. He said, hey, where are your financials? Like, what did you bring? And I was like, well, I didn't bring like my financials and stuff. He was like, so you just came here to chit chat? It's like, I don't have time to chit chat. It's like, if we're going to do some stuff, like, let's look at stuff. You want me to help you? Like, we need financials. We need your personal, like, and so that was just like I said, that was grand opening, grand close. And then I got to wait another quarter to meet him for the next time. So I meet him the next
Wow.
time, and we're talking about this story of the cool Wall Street business, which was that first acquisition. And I'm like, it was a failure. It went out of business and da da da. And he was like, so let's go over the numbers. Like your money out of pocket was 300,000, right? And you're saying, and over the 2 years, how much you take out of the business? It was like, it's about 350,000. And he was like, so you're telling me a failure is turning 300,000 into 350? It's like,
Mm.
it sounds to me like you need to go do that again. That was a success. It's It's like entrepreneurs think the failure is, oh, I'm going to go this business, I'm going to start this business. If it fails, then I am out of business and I failed. It's like, no, like the goal is to be an investor. And so as many times as you can turn this money, 300,000 or 3,000 and 300,000, whatever, like that is a success. And now go and do the next one. And that was my first thinking into private equity. And we say private equity now, but the truth is a little bit like the history and foundation comes from the 80s, where you had these people that were called corporate raiders, and they were able to rebrand themselves. But the goal was, hey, I'm going to go into this business. I'm going to try to get as much out of the business as possible. And I think, especially in our community, like there's a little bit of that transition where the goal of a business is the wealth that it can create. And so when you start to understand that, then you get to see these deals from a different perspective. But that was that, when you ask me, how did that deal turn out? It was a shift where I had kind of given, I'm like, okay, I failed. That's it. I got to walk away from this game. And just that shift in perspective of, no, like, let's go do that again. Like a business isn't, so we also look at the Apples and the Microsofts and all that stuff and think, oh, the business has to last forever. A lot of the deals we're doing is on a business where we're just taking the very best part of that business and plugging it into another business, because businesses, the S&P 500 doesn't stay the same. So businesses are going to come and go. But understanding this whole game of acquisition, private equity allows you to maximize everything that you're doing in the businesses that you're a part of.
Wow, wow, I love that. Well, so let me ask you this, and by the way, Ace is going to do a full breakdown and presentation on Friday night at 8 o'clock. So if you'd like to join, just text, pull out your phone, just like you type into a phone number, and to the number 87948, 87948. Text the word morning if you haven't done that yet. Morning, not with the S, just morning, and you'll be on the list. And I will send you a link to join Ace's event on Friday. And also, I know some of y'all have an interest in Forex. Unfortunately, Michael Edwards is doing Forex at 7, and Ace is doing his thing at 8. So you could go back to back, but I think Michael's time might spill over into Ace's. So we couldn't. Our team wasn't able to spread them out enough. So you might have to make a choice. But at least we would rather give you too many choices than too few choices in the Black Business School. And also, just as an FYI, Thursday night, Dr. Christina Parks is coming in at 8 o'clock. She does health as well. And then Dr. Lene Javette tonight is going to tonight is going to be doing something on raising money for your business. You probably got an email about that. And also tonight I'm going to be doing Powernomics training. So we do something every single day pretty much here. So literally, Ace, we tell people now that we think that we are better at Black wealth than any institution in America on earth, because what we do is we kind of think of ourselves as Black economic surgeons. We believe that the Black wealth problem is one that has not really been solved because no one's really drilled into the specifics culturally, psychologically, socially that keep the Black community from building wealth. Whereas we've done that. My wife is a therapist. We actually have a whole department called the Black Financial Therapy Department, where we literally just dig into, we work with all her therapist friends, and we figure out, what's going on in terms of financial anxiety and depression and just other psychological barriers that affect risk tolerance, for example, for African Americans, and how that might affect our investing habits, right? Or our financial choices, right? If you have trauma, undiagnosed, untreated trauma, well, that affects your spending and investing habits, right? So all this is connected, man, and we're having so much fun with this. And I can tell you that we're really honored to have you in the fold as well, working with us, or as a partner, because what you're doing is really awesome, because you're really giving those keys to really obtaining the kind of power that I know that our people desire. That just that feeling of being a boss, being an investor. You talk about being an investor, shaping your own destiny, giving yourself a pay raise when you want to, just by working a little harder, being a little more creative, connecting with the right people. So let me ask you this. Tell me about your upbringing. You said that you mentioned, did you say Colgate University?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what, tell me where were you born and raised and all that stuff?
Yeah. So I grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Okay.
And, one of those early transition periods was I was going to inner city school and went to a wrestling match at this all boys school. and I went to the wrestling match and was like, man, this is a nice campus. Like I drive all hood. Like they even on the wrestling mats are nice. Like I would go to a school like this, but I was not like doing good enough in school to get in. But my parents were like, hey, if you're gonna do it, like you gotta do it. So a big transition was them like pushing me to say, all right, like I mean, you're not getting good enough grades. You got if you get it, not only do you have to get in, you got to get a scholarship. And so I ended up reaching out to school. I got the application. I did the financial aid. I went through this whole thing. And I went to the interview, and my aunt had to drop me off. And the guy was like, "Yeah." So I was talking to the financial aid person, and she said that like you were the person that was also when I realized like, oh man, we broke. Like when you got to get your parents financial information, and you like that. It's like, oh my God, we are on the brink of homelessness at any moment. Like, so I'm getting the information from them and writing it out and asking her questions. Like, wait a minute, how do we calculate this? And so it was like one of those stories where he was like, "You definitely don't qualify. You don't qualify for the scholarship, but we'll let you in on the probation period." Just because I'm impressed that you like have not like most of the kids coming in, like their parents are doing all this stuff, and you navigated this on your own.
Mhm.
And so just like that first thing was like proximity. Because like the first day that I went to school there, a guy, a big thing at schools like that, like one of the first things I asked, what do your parents do? So he asked what my parents do. My dad was in ministry, as what his dad did, and he's like, oh, my dad owns some banks. And just that transition of like, oh, it never crossed my mind that a human could own a bank. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So just that perspective, like it was great to have the first 13 years where it was like, all right, I mean, like, you just are in poverty. And the other where you're going to this other side of town where it's like, all right, like this is what's possible. Um, so I think that was a big part of just the expectation of, okay, this is possible. And I think that's a big thing of what I try to do even in our program. Like one of the first exercises that we take people through is what I call the personal balance sheet, where we get somebody to dig into, because like you say, when I try to get people to think of themselves like an investor, everybody on this live right now is an investor. Every decision that you make, number one, you're investing your like a asset that just cannot be measured, which is your time. Like your time, like if you go to a billionaire and you ask them, hey, how much would you pay to have some more time on this earth? It's like, oh, like if they about to die, yo, like you can have it all. So you're talking about something that can be worth billions of dollars. And so how you invest that is really, really crucial. And so when I am focused on making money, like I'm trying to find the opportunity that I'm going to be able to maximize, because I don't want to trade a bunch of my most invaluable asset for something that they print out trillions of with just the drop of a dime. You know what I mean? Like this, they can't print out more time, but they print out a ton more of this money. And so how we think about how we're allocating our time should be like an investor. And you should expect like really massive returns on your time. And so part of that is getting the skill sets that are going to allow you to get a massive amount of leverage. I loved our conversation on the income strategy around selling puts and calls and all of that. And like when you combine those two things of being able to go out, buy a business, take over that business's income, and then put that money into these other things that generate more income, because that's where people get the bottleneck with being able to build these other non-working sources, is having something that's going to push the money into it.
Yes. Yes.
So just starting to combine these things, that's what allows you to really build something that is the most leveraged. So yeah, that was a little bit of like, okay, the upbringing, and then how it shaped my thinking now.
Well, I agree with you 100%. And I think that this, this is everybody. I want you to know this is where it's at. This is And really, it's not much different from what a lot of you did. Maybe if you went to college or got some sort of training. In case you don't know, Ace, a lot of our folks in here have gone to college and everything, but then a lot of them got training some other way. They got some sort of
Mm.
education, and it's very similar. Ace mentioned earlier. He talked about going to you go to college, you put up a certain amount of money, you make an investment, and then you're supposed to you're buying access to this cash flow that comes from this thing called a job, right? And that is similar to what he's saying, except instead of buying a degree, maybe you buy a business and you still get access to cash flow, just maybe more cash flow. Because y'all know these
Yeah.
jobs ain't paying, right? And they require a lot of work, and they're much more scarce than they used to be. So that strategy isn't as effective as it used to be because the cost has gone up
Yeah.
to get that degree, and then also the revenue's gone down. So that might be in Ace's world. That might be a business investment that should be reconsidered relative to your other options. So Ace, I want to say thank you for coming in this morning. It's been an honor to speak with you, man. And I want
Yeah.
everybody to know Ace is going to be live and direct with us in the Black Business School Friday night, 8 o'clock. And
Come through. It's going to be a blast.
Yes, yes, it's going to be amazing. And as you all know, he's respected by everybody, and we're honored to have him in the Black Business School. I owe it to my brother Lawrence, I don't know if you know this. Lawrence also introduced me to Lamar Tyler, one of my other favorite
That's
people. Man,
great.
he introduced me to all my friends. But so if you want to get an invitation to the event, the Black Business School students can get in free. Just make sure you get on the text list. So to get on the list, just one reminder, make sure you text the word morning to the number 87948. And also, I'll send you invitations to other things. Tonight, we're going to meet for Powernomics training at 8:30 Eastern. So I look forward to seeing you all then. In case you don't know, Ace, every day we're doing something here in the school.
I'm so impressed, man. I didn't know that it was every day. That is
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, man. We're serious about this, like you said. They don't,
Love it.
time is that commodity that they don't make any more of. And I
Yep.
know we got a certain amount of time to do this. And
Yep.
so every single day, that exactly that's why I know that's why we're friends, is because you're
Yeah.
smart enough to really get that, right? That precious time, you cannot waste that time. I would prefer to waste money than waste time, because like you
Oh,
said,
all
money,
day.
you can go get the money back. Time, you can't get that
Yeah.
back. So bless you, brother. Thank you so much, man. And look forward to seeing you. And God bless all of y'all. Have a good day, everybody. And you'll hear from me later this afternoon. I'll send you the link to Ace's event today. Take care now. Bye bye.
Thank y'all.
Hitting the button. Hold on. I'm trying to hit the end button. Give me 1 second here. Hold on. I'll get you out of here, Ace.
All good. Take your
Zoom is tripping on me, man. It's not.
time.
Yeah. This is the first time I had to take.
Great group.
I got
I
another
love